Everyone.
Nice to see you too. Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, we're very excited to have you. Y'all are going to be closing out our call for us today, so we'll see y'all in a little bit. But good morning, everyone. It is 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time where I am. My name is Bobby Mann. I'm the Maddie's Human Animal Support Services Pilot Director. So honored to be here co-hosting with Mary Smith and Allison and the rest of the Maddie's team. My favorite way to start off a Monday is with all of you, but an even better way to start off a Monday is tossing it to Mary Smith for not only a little bit of motivation, but a little bit of money.
Good morning, everybody. It's so good to see you all. So if you didn't get a chance last week to see the CARE kick off Black History Month, they're having another session this Wednesday at 4 o'clock Pacific time. I'd urge you all to sign up for it. It's a lot of different topics, and it's it's kind of cool the way animals sort of weave through all of it. And so one of the most inspiring sessions that I've ever been part of on Zoom happened last week. So I'm really excited about this week. All right, self-care, we all know how important it is. I would just remind you all that if you really want to do something for yourself, get your water bottle right next to you and make sure you hydrate. Good hydration is really important for helping to reduce stress, anxiety, and because you're going to have to pee on a regular basis, it helps you get up and move around. So it really is one of those one-shop stop that will help you get good health, good steps, good exercise, and at the end of the day, feel good about yourself. So I'd urge everybody to do that. I guess that's not what you were expecting, was it? But what can I tell you when when I walk the dogs in the morning and I just have to look at dog butts, you get what you get. All right, now here's the most fun thing I get to do. Oh, yes. Yay, lighted things on my head. All right, as you guys know, each month, Maddie's Fund is giving away money for people who attend these calls and register. So everybody should register for the month of February, and you register each month. So the Monday winners for January, and each one of these people are going to win $1,000. Good morning, Amber Eby. I'm so glad you're here.
Good morning, Mary. I'm excited.
Me too. Okay. The first winner is Mary Flores from Soul Dog Lodge and Training Center from Tucson, Arizona. Woo! All right. Number 2, Dina Smith, Best Friends Animal Society from Kanab. Oh, I'm kind of loving how this is working. All right, Albert Yao from Paws for Change Rescue Foundation in, wait for it, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Yay, we are definitely international. All right, number 4, Joe Stafford from Animal Rescue League of Iowa in Des Moines. And then the final winner for January is Michael Roach from Tasia Blue Rescue, Centerton, Arkansas. All right, you guys, we are so excited by this. So the grants team will be reaching out to each of these folks to tell them how they'll get their $1,000. Again, remember you have a chance to win $5,000 each month. You can register for the giveaway as many times as you want. And we're so excited to be able to do that. And with that, Bobby, I'm turning it back to you.
Woo, I'm feeling good, Mary Smith. You're just dropping $1,000 on people like it's a holiday. Dina Smith, I believe you are on the call right now. Are you not? Dina, are you here? Can you unmute if you're here?
Yes, I am here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's exciting. And I'm an Iowa girl. So ARL of Iowa, I'm pretty excited for too.
So Dina, $1,000 of unrestricted funds to do all the things, well, not all the things, one of the little many things that you want to do. How do you hope to invest those funds?
Oh my gosh, I don't even have any idea. I'm going to go talk to my life saving center folks and say, I'm an IT person. So I'm going to say, what can we do with this? So
And remember, you can sign up again to win again. So as many times as you want. So don't forget. Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.
Sharon, did you have something? I saw you unmute for just a sec.
And I was just going to say, you know, remember to invite your whole team to come to the calls and to register.
Yeah, every person is a chance. And this is real money that Maddie's giving away. Thank you so much to the Maddie's team. Again, it's going to be $5,000 a month for each of the Monday and Friday calls, an investment of $120,000 a year into your organizations, because Maddie's truly believes the way to change the future is to do it as a community. So again, thanks to Maddie's Fund. Thank you all for being here. And now let's open up the floor for some national updates before we get to our two amazing panels.
Thank you, Bobby. I will go for Maddie's Million Pet Challenge. Applause, please. So this is hashtag thanks to Maddie's, our new initiative. It's the evolution of the Million Cat Challenge. It's Maddie's Million Pet Challenge with the University of California, Davis, University of Florida, Team Shelter, and Open Door Veterinary Collective. You can apply. The link is in the chat for pro bono consults, mentorships. And then we did a webinar the other day. So I put the webinar link in there as well. It's only about 40 minutes, but just to talk about all our exciting programs. And thank you so much, Maddie's. We love when you shake the money tree.
Thank you, Sarah. And speaking of money, I'm just here to introduce that if you hadn't seen it yet, we have launched as a collaborating partner group, the We Foster Challenge. Information is available. It's on the website, and you'll be hearing more about it. Applications will be opening at the end of the month. I believe it's February 28th, and I'll put a link in the chat.
Hey guys, good morning. It's Bethany with Best Friends. Just wanted to let folks know that we've got a town hall this week. The kittens are coming. It's going to be all about foster programs for neonatal and younger kittens. We're jazzed up, whether you have a brand new foster program, you haven't started one, or you're more experienced with your foster program. There'll be good info for everyone. And we're excited to help get the buzz going for We Foster Challenge as well. I'll drop the link in the chat. Thanks.
Hi, Bethany. I'm so excited to see you. Anyone else? Wow, 163 friends on a call on a Monday morning. My heart is full. All right, well, I'll throw one last one out there. I know we've been talking about cats. I know we've been talking about Million Pet Challenge, but we all got some big dog stuff we need to deal with too, right? So I'm going to toss into the chat a big dog masterclass that is being hosted by Maddie's Million Pet Challenge in partnership with Human Animal Support Services. Allison, tell folks how many people have officially already signed up for this masterclass.
Are you ready for this? 1,501 people so far.
1,500 people, folks, that are going to be coming together to talk about big dogs. You still have plenty of time to register. The best part is it's completely free. They're going to be 2 5-hour blocks. So it's going to be almost like a very mini high-powered conference, 30-minute presentations over 2 days. You can't miss it. There's an amazing list of speakers. You can see it on that link there. We really hope to see you there. All right, well, let's keep it moving. So as we are talking about the future of animal sheltering and really having a community-centric model, we're also trying to figure out what the heck we're going to do with all that space in those animal shelters when we're doing our job to keep pets with their families. So I'm going to toss it over to Katie Townsend from Animal Arts, who has been an amazing lead for our Buildings and Facilities Working Group. And she has a rock star cast with her today to talk about a brand new resource that talks all about your buildings.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen really fast. And I think if my other people presenting will just say hello. Make sure you all are on. I saw a couple of you.
Hello, everyone. It's Sarah Price here from Seattle Area Feline Rescue.
Hi, Bo Archer from Humane Rescue Alliance in DC.
Hello, Sandra Strong from Orange County, North Carolina.
Great. Can everybody see my screen?
Looks great.
Perfect. So like Bobby said, I am the lead for the facility working group, but outside of that, I'm with Animal Arts. You may have heard we're an architecture firm out of Boulder, Colorado. So this is definitely a mix of the animal care as well as architecture within our group. And here's everybody in our group. As we just mentioned, we have a couple of people speaking today. So we started this process with several just working sessions about really rethinking what a new HOS designed facility would need to be, and some of the challenges that a lot of existing facilities face that become barriers to their operations and their organizations performing to their highest levels. So out of that, we started constructing some really interesting solutions and really kind of breaking the box on what an animal shelter even needs to be anymore. And maybe it's more of a facility, or maybe it's multiple facilities across the whole city and not one single building. So that's the direction we started with. And out of that came a lot of different challenges and solutions. So things like deinstitutionalizing the organization or making the building a tool so that it doesn't become a barrier to what's going on. And part of those we believe statements included things like, this the building as a tool for supporting the goals of the organization rather than limiting them. So how can we make it better so that the physical spaces match the great things that are happening within the organization? I'm going to turn it over to Bo.
Thank you. I'm going to try to be quick too, because we have not as much time as we have information to share. Thank you, Katie. So our group worked with the communications working group to develop this representation of the components of a community animal care center with sort of a HOS lens. And this layout is somewhat, not exactly emblematic of how a facility would ideally be laid out, with client-facing programs front and center, sort of at the front or the bottom. And then specifically the kinds of support programs that allow staff to interface with those seeking assistance in keeping pets in their homes, finding lost pets, or serving foster parents or community cats. So it's not exactly a representation, but sort of the idea that we wanted to put out there. The next slide, please.
Oh, sorry, went the wrong way. There we go.
Yeah, rethinking spaces. So a large chunk of the document that we created is rethinking spaces, and this sort of 6 categories. And the idea being that rethinking spaces, we want to really break the current models and discover new opportunities to integrate various components and really make the design and functionality unique and ultimately better for the future. And in the next few slides, we'll go ahead and review a few of these ideas that we came up with. So starting out, a couple ideas, drive-through services. And obviously there are a lot of shelters and veterinary hospitals who are carrying out something similar to this. It may be curbside service, but doing something more like a drive-through that could be useful during the pandemic or just otherwise to be more efficient. This would really provide an easy and convenient way to serve those who drive, either for foster services or food banks or veterinary services, any number of things. And then weaving throughout all of this is the concept of designing for inclusivity. That being really key to reducing barriers for really all visitors and staff, anyone who's interfacing with any of the facilities. And the sort of components that we emphasized was designing for considering age, disability, and then generally creating a respectful environment for everyone. More inclusive design ideas might start with the ensuring the architecture feels open and welcoming, and evaluating ways for the building to best support the community. Sustainability is just one sentence here, but we could talk about it for days. So I'll just say that what we want to put forward is that considerations regarding sustainability are meant to focus on using resources in the best ways possible. And the bottom line being that environmentally sustainable design is better design. Next slide. And we definitely want to encourage innovation. Considering precedents from other industries that focus on caring and connecting with people will really help animal welfare organizations design buildings that are warmer, kinder, more inclusive, and non-institutional. So a few ideas along those lines are hotel lobbies, which cater to making people feel welcome, feel good and cared for. Cultural centers may help identify pathways to accessible and welcoming space with a service-oriented mission. And we also admit there are some shelters who may just want to feel like ordinary buildings, but those should also be well kept and good, smelling and clean and welcoming. And then host facilities, as Katie kind of mentioned, they can be small, intimate, or they could be distributed throughout different areas of the community where they're most needed. And one of the things that we talked pretty extensively about in our group was locating facilities or different community programs near gathering places in communities like farmers markets and event spaces, and where food trucks frequent and things like that, to just bring a different kind of atmosphere, because we know historically where shelters have tended to locate have not been places like that. And the next slide, we have public spaces. Public spaces in a host center should really have all of these qualities. The lobby should feel pleasant, quiet, clean. It should smell fresh and have a variety of seating options and gathering places. And most importantly, it should be designed for customer ease of use and be aesthetically pleasing. You can skip to the next slide. Animals in care. In a community-centric model, as Bobby mentioned, fewer animals are housed in the sheltering facility. So this means that animal welfare organizations can really rethink the quality and design of animal housing. And in any sheltering facility, there should be no substandard housing. So in a new kind of, this new vision, we put forth a few different ideas to either meet or exceed industry best practices. An example is the ASV guidelines. Provide enlarged and enriched housing beyond basic standards, provide choice for each animal, including stimuli and enrichment, connect animals with people through innovative design, connect animals to nature more closely, provide specialized care, housing for behavior and medical needs. And this housing could actually integrate thoroughly with human workspaces, which would allow closer monitoring for the animals and ultimately provide them better care. And the final, I think this is my final slide, staff spaces. I think historically shelters have spent little money or time designing the good layouts for people areas. And because HOS is community-centric, it requires really a much bigger focus than we've given it in the past. So because animal welfare work often involves long hours and stressful conditions, making the design of spaces that are equitable, kind, and thoughtful and supportive is even more essential to attracting and retaining staff and volunteers. And that is it for me. I can send it over to, I think Sarah's next. Yes.
I'm next. Thanks, Bo. So Katie's spoken a little bit about our kind of approach to this work and our philosophy. And then Bo has talked a bit about reimagining sheltering within our brave new house world. So for me now, it's kind of thinking about what do we need to consider in some of the areas that most animal welfare organizations already have. So I'm going to go through a little bit on animal services, programs, and medical services, and just pull out a couple of the bits that seem very different for the new HAS model. Although I have to say within the document, we have provided like checklists and ideas for every area. But we're just going to run through some of the key differences here. So next slide, please. So first of all, we're looking at animal services. Animal services is really the core of what we do within animal welfare. This group questioned how we need to adapt what we do now and how our buildings and facilities need to change alongside us to meet those new goals. We have an increased focus on the humans that are caring for their pets, keeping animals out of the shelter in the first place, and an increased focus on reuniting those who've become separated, whether that separation was due to escape and loss, or due to a temporary personal situation that required emergency boarding and care for your pet. On the next slide, again, within animal services, we're highlighting the services that keep pets within their homes. Provision of resources to help humans and their animals, not just food and or litter, but resources such as referrals to other agencies that can provide assistance. Safety nets have strands connecting in all directions. We're now part of that big safety net within our community. The other area we'd like to highlight is lost pet reunification services, considering things like poster materials, printer access, assistance with social media posts, and that can help reunite people with the pets that they love. Our other focus on animal services are those services that help our community members find an alternative home for their pets, such as supportive self-rehoming assistance. For those cases that do end in surrender, consider shelter layouts that provide emotional space surrenderers feel as comfortable as they possibly can within. And consider those spaces that lead easily for, or that facilitate intake to placement services. The next slide is on programs. And these are, again, some of our real kind of core activities with animal welfare. And as our industry adapts or adopts more HAS principles, these core services, such as animal adoptions and foster, will not go away. In fact, many of them will increase in their importance. Programs such as foster and behavior modifications are likely to grow in size and importance as we try and understand pets in homes and meet their emotional as well as their physical needs during their time with us. Transport is likely to remain a part of our futures, considering space with the flexibility needed for transport preparation and or receiving. These spaces can then also be used to facilitate an emergency response in your local community. And then finally for me, medical services. Similar to our other core services, these are going to remain a core part of our work and crucial to our goals. The growth within HAS will of course encourage dual aspect medical services, internal facing services for in-shelter and foster animals, and external facing care for owned pets within our communities so that we can provide care along the spectrum of pets within our community. So I've kind of jumped on a couple of the core services there, and I'm going to pass on to Dr. Sandra Strong now.
Hello, everyone. We're going to move on to animal housing. And as we've been discussing with the HAS model, we have fewer animals in our shelter, but we understand there's still going to be a need to house and shelter some animals. And as Sarah mentioned, these may be behavioral cases, they may be more medical oriented cases. We may still have the need for protective custody, depending on the community and the situation. But as far as dog housing, we want to stick to our ASV best practices. We always want double-sided housing. And we want to provide dogs opportunities for choice. We know that with animals, the more engagement they have in the environment, the more opportunity they have for choice, the less the stress on those animals. And also ultimately less stress for our staff and our workers and our volunteers, because they're able to do more meaningful work to support the animals that are in the shelter. We talked and wrote a lot about also having as much outside time as possible. So this is going to be outside time for dogs to interact with each other when appropriate, to interact with people. And then we really want to think about lighting and getting as much natural light and ventilation within the facility that we can. And then moving on to kitties, our cats. Cat housing is the same. We want double-sided space. We want our cats to have opportunities for choice. And we're moving towards indoor and outdoor choices for cats, right? Can we have catios, cat play yards? We're seeing this already in many of our shelters. And let's not forget hiding spaces for both cats and dogs, if that's what they choose. We want to support their physical and behavioral welfare. And so just overall, a more focused ability to focus more on enrichment for all of us and better support the animals that do need to be in the shelter. When we're talking about community cats, our goal is really to keep them outside of the shelter and keep them thriving in our communities. And so when we're talking about community cats, free roaming cats, feral cats, we're really looking at the Haas model. Perhaps we have a separate quiet room where we're doing more services such as shelter neuter return, trap neuter return, sterilization, providing that kind of support for our community cats. In that room, we're going to want to be able to bring cats more directly into that space instead of having to wheel them throughout our entire shelter, and then have that space be easily cleaned, and things like shelving, because we're talking about a very short temporary housing, you know, where they remain in their trap, receive their sterilization, and go back out. If we do have to hold cats, feral cats in our shelter, we want to be able to provide them as much opportunity as our regular cats. So we're talking more spacing, more hiding spots. Maybe they're waiting to go out into a barn cat type program, but we want them to be in the shelter for as little time as possible. We're really moving away from our metal boxes that we've traditionally been holding cats in, which we know does not support their welfare. And then our little critters next up. If many of us on this call, I'm sure, have had similar experiences where the pet shop shuts down and we suddenly have 200 hamsters, or we have the guinea pig hoarder, things along that nature. So we really want spaces that can contract and then shrink back down, or flex spaces for holding our small critters and being prepared to house the appropriate species. We have a picture here of a rabbit in a real life type pet display area. I know we do this in our current shelter. We'll put rabbits in there, and it allows them more space and more opportunity. And the same, since we know those animals are in our community, we just want to be prepared for them as they transition from being in the shelter to back out in the community. The same with livestock. I think if you're in a community and you know that you're going to need to house livestock, we need to be prepared for that. I know in many shelters that I've worked in, we come in and we find we might have a goat or a pig that's now in our dog housing area and exposed to all those predators, and that is really not good welfare for our livestock species. So we need to rethink how we're doing that. But that could also mean we're contracting that service out, or we have somewhere separate from our shelter where those animals are being housed. It really just depends on the program, where you live, and what type of support you're expected to give. And then next, we have our field services. We know our animal service officers are moving more towards supporting the human-animal bond, keeping pets and families, being educators for our community, and we want to support the work that they're doing. So what does that look like for your shelter? What kind of workspace do our officers need? Do they need some training space where they can interact with the community? Even down to what do their vehicles look like? A lot of times that is their office. How does that look? How does that support the work they're doing? And again, a place to hold those vehicles and a place to safely unload and move animals into your shelter when needed. And then lastly, when we're looking at internal operations, we touched on this some earlier in the presentation, but do we have spaces that support fundraising, administrative spaces? I know some shelters have community rooms that people from the outside can book and hold their meetings there, and that just opens up drawing more people into your shelter. Again, biophilia is a word we tossed around. How do you get more outside into your shelter? Fresh air, fresh light. And then just the idea, I think we're looking at how like zoos and museums provide an area where you come into the building and you're also learning and engaging with the mission and with what's going on in the building. And that's a lot of what we've also talked about. Can we have walking paths, community gardens, play spaces, any way that we can interact better with our community and get people drawn to our shelters. And I'll turn it back over to Katie.
Thank you, team. So again, this is the highlight of the much larger, over like 100-page document for the facility guideline. It is available on the Haas website under the role of the facility, and I think there's a couple links in the chat you can access there. Part of that document, but also available separately, is an existing shelter analysis form. So it has several prompt questions and lists of generic spaces for each of these sections that might help you just get a gauge on where your organization is now and what are some of those pain points you want to focus on in the future. And then we also have a document that's coming out. I don't think it's released yet, but it's 10 ways to renovate your shelter right now. So it's easy and inexpensive changes you can make now to start implementing some of these HOS ideas. And I think we'll open it up to some questions, Bobby, right?
Yeah, team, Katie, Dr. Strong, Bo, Sarah, everyone, like incredibly grateful, incredibly blown away. Folks, if y'all think they missed something, like they had to have missed something in this toolkit. This toolkit is 96 pages long. They did not miss anything. And Dr. Berliner, the comment about what can folks do to help with their rural shelters, I think that steps on how to renovate your current shelter now that's going to be coming out is going to be a huge help for that as well. But folks, if y'all love this and appreciate this, let's put it in the chat. Just a huge thank yous, because the other part of this, all of these folks are volunteering their time to put these toolkits together. And without our community, we would not be able to do this. So please just, I want Allison to have to repost the link to those resources because they're like 90 chats up. Okay. So let's just keep it going for just a sec. And Dr. B, I know you had a lot of comments in the chat, but I'd love for you to unmute. Is there anything else you'd want to add or ask the team, Dr. Berliner?
No, I'm just super excited to read that 96 pages. So thank you so much for doing that work. And I did put something in there about helping rural shelters know when it's time to just burn their building down versus when so they can renovate, because that's a major issue in our region. And so I'm hoping there can be some follow-up for those shelters who, in looking at something like this, just feel overwhelmed at how beautiful so many of our facilities are. And we need to get everybody to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I saw one of the comments, this document is something you could share with your architecture team at the very beginning of thinking, hey, you know, I'm looking at maybe doing a new facility 5 years, 8 years from now. Go ahead and share it with them. They'll be able to read through it and understand these spaces a lot better. There's also other pieces of this document that focus on, you know, little things that you can do to help with some of those very specific pain points or spaces that you're really trying to change. A lot of these spaces should be flexible over time. So I think it's definitely worth a read through. We do understand it's very large, but the idea is that a lot of it links back constantly to the main document, and you can pick out the sections that you need.
Thanks, Katie. Stacy, I would love for you to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, all. Great group. I miss you. I wish I was part of the group, but I ran out of time in my life. But anyway, awesome project. So one question that I had is, do you feel as we have become more of a sort of a foster-centered organization that the overall footprint for these buildings will become smaller and maybe more affordable?
Yeah, I think it definitely can. And a lot of what these decentralized models talk about is being able to do tenant infills and strip malls across your city, if that works best for you. Or maybe some of the spaces that you traditionally have in a shelter that aren't working become things like the food bank or the community education room. So they're not what they used to be, but they're evolving to something that also benefits the programs and getting the community more involved and educated over time. But yes, ideally the footprint could go down.
Can I jump in for 1 second?
Yeah.
That question. I think I agree with that. And I would also say that it's extremely important to run your foster program similarly to how you're running the shelter population, by running the same kinds of reports and getting animals through the foster program rather than they go into foster and then their length of stay ends up being 2 or 3 times as long, because your foster program won't be as effective if their length of stay there. You know, just think about it as another location. Anyway, yeah.
And really quickly, Stacy, I'd love for you to ask your question to close us out.
Sure, this is Stacy Daines from Long Beach Animal Care Services. So I'm just wondering about the lifespan of these buildings. They're absolutely beautiful. We're in a building that was just considered like the primo example about 20 years ago, but it's now very much outdated.
Yeah, I did respond in the chat, but I'll go ahead and tell people from the architecture perspective, we design our buildings to last 30, 50 plus years because we don't want to keep having to go through the rebuild process. It's a very expensive process for a lot of organizations, something they do, you know, once in a couple of decades. So we want to get it right and flexible for what they need at the time, and being very conscious. A lot of times that initial process with your architecture team will do a heavy data analysis of your animal population and do projections of that over time, so we can see that maybe certain things are going up and down and plan for those housing spaces accordingly. Or maybe we're even designing it where it's almost like a caterpillar of dog pods. So each pod can flex to transport from out of state, post-emergency disaster, general adoption, isolation. So you have a lot of flexibility built into your organization. I will say one of the things you can do right now is really, to give it sort of that facelift feel, is really think about what the painting on the walls is. Are your colors kind of outdated? Is it something that you can easily repaint over time? Are there ways you can integrate new art into your building that just kind of gives it that nice little facelift? Especially in public spaces, but also thinking of some of those staff spaces, being conscious too. Those people are looking at those beige walls all day long. That can get very old.
Katie and team, thank you so much. Again, just echoing, what an amazing resource. I'm sure lots of people are going to utilize this. And Katie, I know that you don't like talking about animal arts and you make it about everybody else, but please put a link to your website in the chat, because personally, I'm just blown away by the work that y'all do.
We love it more than anything. That's why we do it every day. And I will say, if you would like to onboard to be part of the building and facility working group, that happens at the end of March. I think there is a specific link you do for all the onboarding working groups, but we're always happy to welcome new people.
Perfect. I'm sure Eliza will drop that in the chat, and shout out to Eliza for also editing that entire document. So thank you all. Really appreciate you. Let's move on to our next presentation. When we talk about honoring the human-animal bond, understanding the Brazilians in shelter pets, but also people, there's one organization that's been doing this really, really well for a really long time, and that is my friends at Marley's Mutt. So we have Zach and Will here to talk about the Positive Change Program. And more exciting than that is we actually have some graduates from the program that we're going to be interviewing after a brief presentation about the program. So Zach and Will, over to you.
Good morning.
Morning, Will.
I'm gonna pull up my screen and try to share my screen quick with y'all.
Looks good.
All right. Can you all see that?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Zach, do you want to jump in here?
Yes, sir. Can you guys hear me okay? Am I coming in loud and clear?
Sounds great, Zach.
All right, outstanding. So let me give a little bit of context on the previous slide to Positive Change. So Positive Change was really created, the synergy of Positive Change was an experience I had with a formerly incarcerated friend of mine who adopted one of our rescue dogs, and it really changed the entire trajectory of his life. He was someone who was kind of destined to be back in prison, had served almost his entire adult life in prison. And watching that bond develop and watching how it sent him into rescue and into shelter management, and his whole life now is dogs and shelter managing, it really gave us an insight into how effective this work could be. Similarly, in Kern County, where we are, we have tons and tons of big dogs, lots of big dogs with behavioral issues, lots of big dogs that just don't get some of the structure and enrichment that they need to flourish. And we found that working in this program can really do that. So that's how we decided to really launch out and try to make the program as ubiquitous as we could, get it into as many prisons as we can, and all the rest. And let me just pause for one quick second and say how incredibly happy I am to see all of you guys. Bobby, my man, Mary, great job, Best Friends team, Haas team. This is so rad to be on this call. I miss you guys. It just fired me up to see all your faces. So I love you guys. Next slide, please, Will. So Marley's Mutt's Positive Change Program is an innovative and progressive program that pairs incarcerated men with rescue dogs for mutual rehabilitation. So that's essentially what it is. It's a 3-month-long program whereby our rescue dogs go into prison to live side by side, train for 13 hours a day inside the prison facility. This is the only program that takes place on the yard in the pod, whereas other programs take place in classrooms. So it has an immediate effect on everything that takes place in the prison. We're currently at North Kern State Prison, Norco, California City, Tehachapi, and Kern Juvenile Justice, which is both of those programs we're able to go through throughout COVID, which is incredible. We're currently working to expand our program as well as our post-incarceration support. We have a postgraduate program that we're developing, as well as several means to produce more trainers and really get this program to as many regions of the country that could use this kind of work. Next slide, please. So Brian James, this is one of our students. This is at Corcoran State Prison, the only level 4 dog program ever run on a level 4 180 program. His quote is, "They teach us how to think differently in here, how to embrace hope." Prison is a very dark place. Whenever we walk in there, you are greeted, you're not really greeted, you're thumped in the chest with this heaviness, this sorrow, this darkness, this confusion. And by having the dog program on the yard, it's just remarkable what takes place in terms of progression of thought, progression of empathy, progression of mind, and most importantly, hope. One of the most important things about this program is it provides hope and opportunity to incarcerated people and pets, both incarcerated pets that wouldn't have had much of an opportunity at hope or success, and individuals who have been in this cycle of incarceration for most of their lives, most of them since they were children, and really providing them a way up and out, as well as the 11 million children affected by incarceration, so that they can join this incredible pet, $100 billion pet industry that desperately needs animal trainers. Brian James is scheduled to go to board. I'm happy to report in a few days. And if Brian successfully goes to board, we will see him in 3 months, and he'll be joining Dante, hopefully at LA Canine. So we're thrilled about that.
Hey, Will, we don't have sound.
Oh, the sound's not working?
Yeah, so if you actually unshare your screen for just a sec, you'll probably need to reshare, and then there's a box.
No worries. We can skip it on. I can kind of encapsulate what he said. Basically, what Brian is saying here is that this is, that they operate in a level 4 general population facility, and that it's an incredibly dark place without the dogs. And when you bring the dogs in, it allows for this radical transformation of everyone within that facility. Prison is a very, very racially segregated place, rigidly racially segregated. And it's very difficult to set yourself up for success if you're working only within your race. So that's one of the most beautiful things about our program, is how our races come together and really set people up for success on the outside, make prison a much less dangerous place. The number of incidents that occurred on the Corcoran State yard, as well as all of our yards, go down radically. I mean, we're talking like 50 to 75% in terms of stabbings, fights, all those kinds of incidents that really make prison a dark, unhealthy place.
Hey, Zach, really quick, Sharon has a question in the chat. Just when you said go to board, could you explain what you mean?
Yeah, so he's going to the parole board. Most of our incarcerated students are long-term. They've been incarcerated for very long periods of time for usually violent offenses, not always, but the population we work with are locked down for a long time, so that when they do get released from prison, they have to go to the parole board, present their case, talk about how long they've been involved in positive change as a program. You'll earn milestones within the program as well, which take off time for your sentence. So because he was in our program for 3 years, he'll get a considerable amount of time off of his sentence. If he's approved at board, he'll be a free man pretty soon thereafter. So that's what that is. One of the most important things that happens during this, you guys, that just blew me away, something I didn't see coming, is families taking notice. This is Todd Olds. So many of our guys have been separated from their families for years, and their families have all but given up on them. There's no connection. They're incarcerated far away from their families. I read a letter from Todd's daughter that she wrote to him that said, "I have a new daddy now. I don't want you." Really just a sad letter that basically brought him down into the dumps. About a year and a half into our program, he got another letter from his daughter. He hadn't heard from her in 9 years. She was now an adult, and she said, "Dad, I'm seeing you on the Positive Change Instagram. I could not be more proud of you. Tell me more about your dog. I can't believe what's going on. I want to have a relationship for you because I deserve it." So families have something to be excited about. Following their incarcerated loved ones, do something redemptive and something positive and something, totally opposite of what their usual day-to-day is. So it really brings the family back into the lives of the incarcerated individual to help them have the support they need when they get out. And really, it goes back to hope and opportunity and believing in people and all those positive things. Sobriety is not a primary principle within our program, but it's something that is rampant within the prison industry. And it's something that a lot of you who may have dealt with sobriety understand the efficacy of dogs, the human-animal bond, and sober work. So one of the kind of ancillary benefits of the program is that many of us are in recovery, who run this program and who have written the curriculum. So that's a huge benefit of this program is our guys understand that their energy goes directly from them through the umbilical cord that is that leash and transfers into the dog. So one of the best things about it is that they're constantly checking their energy. They're constantly checking their emotions. They're becoming comfortable with their emotions. They're able to adjust their energy as need be. And it's really just incredible life practice on how to be successful when you get out, how to deal with problems, how to maybe pass the leash off when you know your energy is not great. So the sober work that's happened in there is incredible. Many of our guys have been sober for years. The only time they've been sober during their entire period of incarceration. So it's really, really wonderful. So numbers do in fact matter. Anybody who works within the pet industry understands that. We have graduated 500 plus students, men in maximum security prisons, and 25 plus girls. The girls in our program are the pathways girls. See, these are repeat offenders, sometimes 3, 4, 5. Many of them have been incarcerated since they were 9 years old. So these are girls that are going to be lost to the system. And we've really been able to get in there at a critical time. Many of them don't have parents. Many of them are property of gangs. Many of them are property of other individuals. Really as sad of a situation as you can possibly imagine. But the uplift and the purpose and the all of the positive things that the program bring them such happiness. I just wish all of you could see a graduation. Let me just say that much.
Zach, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
When using the terminology girls, are you referring to because it is women under the age of 18?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
their ages are between, incarcerated at juvenile justice between 12 and 19.
Thank you.
And it's just girls in that particular program. So we've had 30 plus graduates be paroled and released from prison with 0 having returned to prison. Almost the vast majority of those individuals are involved in the pet industry as kennel technicians, dog trainers, behaviorists. Each of them are on a different arc towards their end dream, their end goal, but all of them are working in the pet industry in some manner or fashion. Many of them have developed their own business plans involving things somewhat outside of the normal realm of kenneling or training. It's really marvelous to watch them get their own ideas about how to impact their societies. Most of our graduates are Black and brown men. They are able to return to their communities, in our case, Compton, South Los Angeles, Sacramento, and be effective within their communities and bring all of this love, this empathy, this conscientiousness that they learned within prison and shift it into their communities. That's another one of the benefits that's really been remarkable is these guys have credibility and they're respected and they're loved. And to see them come out and focus on dog training and the human-animal bond and what it can achieve is really, really a beautiful thing. These images just get me every time. We should not seek to throw away our people or our pets. This is a statement that I really couldn't drive home enough. This dog on the upper left, I actually have tattooed on me because it reminds me of dogs that we aren't able to save. And it's something that's always driven me to try to do as much as we can to, that dog was euthanized. And I wanted to remember those eyes and the idea that we have to work to do everything we can for the big pitties. And that's one of the beautiful things about our program is what it's been able to do to rehabilitate, broken, throwaway people and throwaway animals. And as someone who's considered himself a throwaway person, just all of this, it just hits me right in the heart. It's about as good as it gets. All right, baby, our positive change graduate speaker. So the first, my good friend Vo is a dog trainer at Humble Canine. Hey, would you like me to just run through the entire lineup?
Yeah, please do. And then I would love to
awesome.
have, I'm going to interview them as soon as you're done, Zach.
Yeah, great. So each of these individuals has been at various prisons, from Corcoran State Prison to Wasco State Prison to North Kern State Prison and California City Correctional Facility. Each of them have been out for some from 6 months up to several years, and all of them are involved in the pet industry as trainers. Vo, dog trainer at Humble Canine. Dante Farmer, Mr. Farmer works at LA Canines in Santa Monica. Daniel Robinson, my boy, he's the owner and dog trainer at Doggy Jitsu. Oscar Robinson is also down there at LA Canines. He and Dedante are holding it down with Colleen and Dave. Rigo Garcia, my man, hanging with Kim, just killing it at the Canine Republic. I could not be more proud of you, brother. So yeah, I can't wait to see this interview. This is just as exciting for me, buddy.
This is amazing, Zach. I'm going to ask you to unshare your screen. I think there's one person, I think Rigo is the one person I don't have on my list. And gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We're so honored to share this space with you. The first thing I want to start off with saying is, like, I know we only have 10 minutes. I would love to set an hour or two aside to truly hear your stories, because I really want to just hear your journeys. But to get us kicked off, Mr. Vo, would you mind, in your 1-minute elevator speech, just telling us a little bit about your background and just how this program has impacted your life? And Will, if oh, there he is. Probably needs to unmute. There you go.
Okay. Okay. So I was introduced to this program at Watco State Prison. At that time, I had just recently had my life without possibility of parole reduced. So I was in a mindset where there's a possibility of hope for me. And that's when I joined this program. This program provides all of the things that Zach just mentioned. The thing of, I learned essential empathy, understanding other people through working with dogs, understanding the value of working with other people who share different culture and background that I do. And by working with dogs, learning how to be mindful of my emotion and being able to express my emotion, I was able to earn my parole in 2020. And I have been paroled for 1.5 years. And because of my connection with the Positive Change Program, I met up with my mentor, John Flores, which was a mentor in the Positive Change Program. I work for him now at Humble Canine. I also have my small dog business, personal training dog business called Redemption Tail. And so I have a little private lesson that I provide in the community I live in. Basically, working with dogs changed my life. It actually opened door for me, but I think most importantly, it gave me a way to really understand myself, a safe way, I guess, to understand myself, and that translates for me to be able to have empathy and understanding for other people that are around me.
Mr. Vo, we're so honored that you're here. I'm going to just toss it over to Mr. Robinson really quick to make sure everyone has a chance to speak up. So Mr. Robinson, over to you.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
How's it going?
Doing well.
My name is Daniel Robinson, right? 33. I went into the Positive Change Program in about midway through 2016. I spent close to 2 years in the program. I paroled, midway through 2018. Worked for a facility for a little bit of time, and then I launched my own business, Doggy Jitsu, right? I don't know if you can see it. My journey through the program was one of, let's just say, attrition in my own mind. Maybe not on the exterior, but going in with zero experience with dogs. I didn't grow up with dogs really. Kind of lived in apartments and stuff, and family members had allergies. So my experience with dogs was virtually zero. So that arc of learning how to communicate with them, how to read their body language, and how to connect with their instincts, it taught me how to connect back to my instincts, or at least to be aware of that connection, right? So often what I do with my clients is I explain to them that dog training or dog behavior, it's not something that you need to learn, but rather to pay attention to remember, right? Because all animals, essentially, whether they're human, whether they're canine, whether they're birds, lizards, doesn't matter, right? They all essentially communicate with the same body language and all have the same basic instincts, right? The fight, flight, avoidance, and surrender responses, right? So realizing that process is taking place inside me allowed me to reconnect to my natural state to be able to communicate and learn from the dogs, and then also in turn teach them and build a relationship based on that mutual connection that all creatures have on this planet, right? You know, and by being able to do that and kind of reconnect to our true nature as humans, it allowed me to kind of address some of the deep-seated issues that were fueling my criminal behavior and fueling my addiction and all those things. And so being able to kind of reconcile those issues within myself, it allowed me to kind of develop a more guided purpose in my life and set direction from my path, you know, well into the future. And that's something I just didn't have before. You know, I was kind of lost for years, you know, dealing with emotional abuse and you know, sometimes physical, sometimes verbal, you know, just not really feeling very worthy as a person, and then seeing how much influence I can have over, you know, the well-being of pets, particularly dogs. It just gives you such a strong sense of worth.
Absolutely, Miss Robinson.
You know.
Speaking of guiding, you're guiding about 163 other people through this beautiful journey and sharing your life. So we're so grateful that you're here. Mr. Farmer, I would love to come to you. And then after that, we're going to come to Mr. Garcia.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. Hello, I'm Deontay Farmer. I was in Corcoran State Prison, and I was literally brought out of the security housing unit to be in a positive change program. And I went straight there into the yard. And if you want to see a lifestyle change in humans, especially in a prison like that, which was considered for like 2 years, 3 years in a row, the most violent prison in the state of California, it's a shoot kick out yard. So they deem it the worst of the worst. And Brian James, that's my bro right there. My man never had a dog a day in his life. And he was like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? I said, watch, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Just watch. And to see every single race, every single fraction of people, every single walk of life just embrace each other. You know, you got dudes that have been in the shoot for 30 years coming out of there. And a man told me, he walked up to me, and I had my rescue dog, Griffin. And he said, I thought I would die in prison before I ever see a dog again. And I just handed him the leash here. You know, the first time I seen John Flores, it was all smiles. And I really just started smiling. I literally just got out of prison about 2 months ago. My ankle monitor was cut off. And, you know, I've been embraced by Dave and Colleen Shutoff here at LA Canines. It's been amazing. There's no biasness to where it was in prison or just the things. I went from Department of Children and Family Services to Juvenile Hall to California Youth Authority all in one movement. From age of 14, I never been out of prison. So it was different for me to feel this, you know? And like I said in the video that we made in our testimony, I've never really been able to trust human beings. It was the dogs that did that. They bridged the gap, you know? And I told the brothers in the program, what type of feeling would you have inside your soul if you couldn't save a life? But this is your opportunity to save a life. So correct the bad deeds with the good deeds. To see the dog walk out of a prison cell or out of a prison setting, that gave us motivation to want to leave out. So to see every single dude in there, all those guys are trying to go to level 3s and trying to get to lower level facilities so they can get out of there. You know, I talked to them like, man, we have to do something. We have to do something. Like you look at Compton. Compton doesn't have a rescue. There's dogs just running around everywhere. So to me, to go back to my community and bring something and show them like, all right, I actually did something right with my life for once. My mom finally told me, I'm proud of you for once in my life after we reunified, after I got out of prison because I didn't talk to anybody. It really had a special feeling, you know, and I'm here, I got dogs all day. You know, I never leave what I do because I actually love it. You know, I have energy at the end of the day because I'm doing what I love the most. And it's actually my therapy. It's not work for me. It's therapy. You know what I'm saying? It's something different. At the end of the night, I don't have the pressures of, oh, I don't want to do this the next day. No, I actually want to get up and feel it. I feel the impact continuously. You know what I'm saying? It's cleansing my soul. So it's a blessing, you know, and I just want to elevate with everything that I do and all the people that I'm meeting. And Positive Change did that.
Mr. Farmer, I have goosebumps, my brother. And here's the thing. I know, folks, it's the top of the hour. We know many of you probably have a hard stop, but these gentlemen have been living within boxes, within structure, within time frames. And it's not my place to interrupt these beautiful stories. So I'm going to keep this shit rolling. If y'all got to go, y'all got to go. But if y'all want to stay, we're going to listen to these beautiful, amazing men just tell their badass stories. So Mr. Garcia, over to you. I'd love to hear your story as well.
Hello, everyone. There's a lot of good motivation this morning. I love it. So I did the Positive Change program one time. And I've always wanted to work with animals. Regardless, I just found it through the program, through the Positive Change program. I'm very happy that the program brought these amazing people into my life, and now I'm working with someone very special. That's not only am I gonna be able to run my own business someday, but it's making me grow in this career. It's not just like any other program; it's an actual career that I'm building myself in. And everything started through the Positive Change program. The avenues that it opens up to these new people, it's amazing. It's amazing. I have a solid career. I'm very in touch with myself, and there's so much understanding, especially from the lifestyle that I come from, and to the being in the prison system and everything. I could really feel in touch with the animals. I know how it feels to be in the crate. I know how it feels to live with tension inside a crate. So I could relate all those situations with the animals, with dogs, especially with dogs, because we have so much in common. But I mean, I've grown so much, and man, I feel very man, I really want to the program helped me, and I really want to feel like I want to help others. You know, I want to share this story with people that are institutionalized, and damn, it's an amazing program. It's so much that I could say that. Damn, it goes deep, man, and a lot of the stuff that these people have to share it's amazing. I feel very confident in what I do when it comes to dog handling. I feel very confident about my good intentions, and I feel very good and proud of everything that I've accomplished. I look back when I started and I just be like, damn, how beautiful life has become for me just through these people. And it all started through the program, because I did the program one time. I met amazing people. I met actually 3 amazing people. It was Sam, Kim, and Robert. And these people opened up, I don't know, the first time I stepped into Kim's house and the way they live, it was so amazing to me, because I never had that in my life. So it's crazy. And I was like, damn. And then slowly I started doing the little things, and I didn't understand, I wanted to do so much, but the little steps that I've made and working through that process, I was able to find, I got so good at it that now every day I'm not only getting small portions of information, but massive amounts of information on learning with the dogs, and really going deep into thoughts, and really connecting and just seeing reactive dogs be so soft, helping even with humans, talking to clients and just being able to, and I see it and I smile and I laugh, and I'm like, I struggled. You know what? I struggled. I know exactly how it feels. And I'm and just helping them through the process. I'm always open to help anybody. And it's crazy. I really I have a big heart, and I really felt in touch with myself. I'm I've always wanted to do something like this. I didn't know how. And the first time I seen the paper, dogs. And I was Positive Change program. Okay. And it took me, I was about to parole. I was about to parole. So a year before I parole, I do the program. And you know what? To this day, I've ran businesses. I was a manager in doggy daycares and boarding facilities. I was working with in multiple places. But one thing I felt that I was being brought down, that I had a bunch of rocks on me, that I I couldn't find success. So when I was like, you know what, I love dogs, but I don't want to feel stressed out about it. I want to love what I do, and I want to bring my happy-go-lucky and make sure that every dog and myself are shining, and I want to enjoy every single bit of it. So I was like, you know what, I really have to find my way, because it's easy to be misled. So I found it, and when I found it, every day, what was that?
I think you just got Zach choked up is all it was. Rigo, Mr. Garcia, I'm going to throw this out there. You know, I know we all love a little bit of Zach Scow in our lives. I mean, I've been to animal welfare conferences and I felt like I was hanging out with Justin Bieber, but I'm going to say, I think you got more charm and charisma than Zach Scow, man. I'm sitting here listening to you and you're literally shining my day up. But I do want to, for 1 second, go to Mr. Oscar as well to give him a chance to speak up. But this has been, oh my gosh, my heart is so full and I'm so honored to be listening to your story, Mr. Garcia.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, man. It's awesome, man. A lot of amazing people. Thank you, everybody.
Here we go.
Oscar, you ready for us?
Yeah, I'm ready. Thank you, guys. I would like to thank everyone for allowing me the privilege to be here. A big shout out to Zach and everyone in the Positive Change program. Thank you. It really does mean a lot to me. And yeah, when I was a kid, I experienced a hopeless situation in my home setting that I started seeking escape, and to the point that I went into the street. And I ran into a situation that just made my situation at that time worse. The street, I changed and adopted behaviors and ways of thinking that eventually at the age of 17, I found myself incarcerated with, for the rest of what I thought then and what I was told then, for the rest of my natural life. So at 17, I was tried and sentenced as an adult and sent to a maximum security prison for 24 years. I served 25 years. For 24 of the 25 years, I spent them in maximum security prisons and in California, here in California. 10 years, like 10, 12 years before I reached the Positive Change program in prison, I started taking steps into changing my life, becoming aware of my thought process, how becoming gradually aware of my emotions, that I had emotions. And although my life was changing in a lot of the decision making that I was making while I was incarcerated, I started to wonder if I ever was going to get out, if I ever did get out, what I was going to do with my life. I had no direction still, in the form of how I was going to make a living, what my life would look like if I ever did get out. Because as a 17-year-old, when I received a double life sentence, I became convinced that I was going to die in prison, that I was never going to see the outside of a prison ever again. So on my 24th year, I entered the Positive Change program. It gave me a gift. It gave me a hope. The introduction to the staff, the introduction to the animals, what the animals were doing to me, the change that was the impact it was having on me and other people. It gave me a gift of starting imagining my life outside of a facility, at the possibility of having a life that encapsulated, that had meaning, that had value, where I could touch other people's lives and the lives of pets. And that to me was what I believe is what has enabled me. Once I went to board and I was able to talk to them about my life before prison, during prison, and who I was then, they found me suitable. They found me suitable and they asked me what did I envision myself doing if they granted me parole. And I told him that I saw myself in the dog industry, helping people, helping animals. And I still remember the district attorney, although her job was there to convince them to, that she was not in favor of my release, but yet she said she still found she found it. She told me that she congratulated me for my desire to be in this industry, and she said, well, that I might want to consider grooming because there's more money in that, and everyone started to laugh, and I thought, and at that time I thought, this is interesting because although her job there is to advocate not for my release, she was still excited about me entering the dog industry, possibly. So I was found suitable on that meeting, on that board meeting, and 3 months later I came home. I was immediately embraced by the staff. They were my mentors in the Positive Change program. One came to visit me at my home, which is Alan Lara, and he gave me my first set of leashes, of dog leashes. And again, he fed the dream that I had developed while I was incarcerated in the Positive Change program of what I wanted to do now that I'm home, now that I'm out, now that I'm free. And gradually, I started to take steps in training. First, I started experimenting with family pets, or trying out the tools that I learned while I was incarcerated in the Positive Change program. And then Mr. Zach, he sent me telling me about, recommended me to LA Canines that they were hiring. So I sent a resume over there. They contacted me the very next day, and I've been working there since my release. I was released in 2019, December 24th. So I've now been home a little bit over 2 years, and I've been working at LA Canines for a little bit over a year. I'm proud to say that I'm working at LA Canines, and I'm also training independently, working, thinking of ways of eventually starting my own program, starting my own work, my own training facility, and I've been living on my own in my own apartment as an adult for the first time ever in my life for the past year now. It's given me the ability to enter a career that prior to the Positive Change program, I never imagined. I didn't even have an idea what exactly I was going to do. So it's giving me, going back, it's giving me a gift to have a dream, come home, and actually stepping into the dream and making it a reality. And to me, that's exactly what I believe is a miracle. It's the conditions being present for it to be manifested by the amazing people that I've met in my own determination, fueled by the hope that this program has given me. And just yesterday, I was with a client and working with her dog, speaking with her, and after 20 or 30 minutes into it, she begins to cry and tell me that she didn't know that that her dog could change or find balance. And she was starting to get to a place where she was losing hope, and being able to connect and relate both to the dog and to her, because I had one time lost hope in ever being out of prison, or ever wondering if I was ever going to be past 18 years old, if I was going to be alive past that time. At one point I thought, so I understood that her seeing her pet change in ways and doing things that she thought he wasn't capable of doing, finding calmness, it brought her to tears. And to me, that as much as I was addressing that and managing my own emotions during that, because I was handling her pet. And after we were done, I teared up. and I told her my reasons for being in this industry and why and how that fuels my desire to continue to cultivate my skill set. And because I realized that working with pets, it enables me to work with human beings and to give them something that many of them hope that they can get, but begin to wonder if it's not possible, which is to save their pet, to save a pet that they might be thinking they may have to give away because they can't have them in the house anymore because of behavior issues. And it makes them sad. It breaks their heart. So when I was having this conversation with the client yesterday, to me, it very much reminded me of why I'm doing what I'm doing. It gives my life meaning to be able to help other human beings, help pets that, if not for this intervention, can find themselves in a situation where they could possibly lose their lives. And if these behavior issues are not addressed, and so this not only has given me the ability to live on my own and to acquire a skill set that I can feel proud of, and it allows me to touch the lives of both animals and people and change their lives, and maybe in a small way, but in a way that changes the trajectory of their life.
Yeah, Mr. Rodriguez, what I will tell you personally is that you today have not touched my life in a small way. You have touched my life in a big way. And to all of you gentlemen, for sharing your truths and your stories, I've been doing this shit for a while, and I get to listen to a lot of stories and help tell a lot of stories. This has personally been the greatest opportunity I've ever had in my career, to be able to sit here and to just share this space with all of you. You are all inspirational, encouraging, powerful, resilient, all the things that I hope to be in my life. So I know we're a bit over. We're going to bring you all back. We're going to do a whole nother hour session like this, just to sit and listen to your stories, because truly this is a gift to us. But Zach and Will, I want to come back over to you to toss over to close it out. And if you have any final thoughts for us, and thank you all. Y'all, we're 20 minutes over, and you have over 100 people that stuck around to hear your stories, because you all are so powerful. So just remember that for the rest of the day.
Well, I hope you guys are as tickled as me. I'm so proud of you guys, Positive Change family, all my brothers. I am so proud of you guys, man. I'm right there with everybody else on this call. So the couple of things that I wanted to touch on really quickly is that first and foremost, we're trying to really have this program be able to access communities all over the United States. Most of the communities where prisons exist have considerable animal sheltering issues, especially in California and in Texas. So there is a tremendous amount of work that we could do to fix the numbers when it comes to large dog euthanasia, large dog rehabilitation, and behavior work. And this program is a real way to do that. We've built out an incredible curriculum through Leah Marquez and Lisa Porter and Kim Erickson and Sam Johnson, but we're always looking to adjust it and elaborate it and grow. So this is not something we want to lock our community out of. We are very open-minded to this entire community, which means everyone on this call, regionally, municipally, wherever folks want to get involved. We would love to hear from you. This is going to be a group effort to make this, I always say, ubiquitous. that's really my dream, is to get, there's no reason why this program can't be in every correctional facility in the United States, to really create and manifest incredible change. And like we keep going back to, altering the trajectory of lives that really have very little hope and very little purpose. What this program does to allow for a dignified return to society is second to none. And the reason is because you guys have open hearts, because the rescue community, the sheltering community has that empathy and understand. So very few communities, very few economies welcome our brothers and sisters into their space. And there's such a stigma that our culture, that our movies, that our shows have generated when it comes to the formerly incarcerated population. We are taught to be fearful. We are taught to be scared. So for you guys to embrace them and to see how just the incredible amount of potential within these individuals. Many of these guys, you know, Oscar touching on being down for 25 years. If you can be down for 25 years in a maximum security setting and come out of the other end with your humanity intact, you are an incredible human being and you have a lot to offer this world. And so many of our guys have just a wealth of spiritual, emotional, really been through some tough times, and they have a tremendous amount to offer. And for the animal welfare community to offer that path to redemption, that true redemptive path back into society so that they can uplift their families, we have to remember that it's not just those who are incarcerated. There are 11 million children directly affected by incarcerated parents. That cycle of incarceration transfers right onto those children like that. It is something that is as serious as a heart attack. And by finding the pet industry as a legitimate outlet for their employment, we could solve an absolutely huge socioeconomic problem right now. And that is providing a way up and out for the incarcerated instead of the 75% recidivism that we currently struggle through. 75% of those incarcerated end up back in prison within basically a 3 to 5 year time span at a cost of $80,000 per inmate in the state of California. So what
Zach,
we can
in
do,
your graduate program, did it say 0 people?
0% recidivism. We've had none return to prison. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Really quick, I wanted to personally apologize to Mr. Vo. I know I cut you off pretty short at the beginning. You probably had the least amount of time as everybody. So when we come back for the whole hour, I would love for you to start and take up all the time that you need to tell your whole story, because I was very engaged in all the things that you're saying. I want to go over to Stacy really quick. Stacy Danes, you're in Long Beach. These folks are in your backyard. I've seen you have all the feels. Like, what's going through your head right now? What's your next step in this? I can see your wheels turning.
Yeah, so I actually just sent an email to our human resources director. What's going through my mind as a government agency is that people that have these experiences and backgrounds, they don't get government jobs. And that's not fair. Like, you know, these are exactly the kind of people that we need to have working in our industry. And, you know, government jobs have lots of protections. They're, you know, once you're in for life. You get wonderful benefits for yourself and your family. I'm a government agency, and I want to know how we can bring these folks on board. I mean, it sounds like a lot of these people have an entrepreneurial spirit. And so they may not want to work for somebody else, and that's great. But to have this opportunity available to people is just so important. And what really, really struck me is which of the gentlemen was talking. I think it was Oscar. You know, he clearly made some bad choices when he was 17. Who hasn't, you know, and got caught and spent his entire adult life in a facility for bad choices. I don't want anybody to characterize me by my bad choice that I made and to call me something because of the worst decision I made in a moment. And it's just, you know, the livelihoods that are available to folks that have not gone through this sort of soul searching and this sort of, you know, their internal struggle to become full people. I want them on my team. I want them as my boss. I want them.
Stacey Danes, game on.
So that's what I'm gonna try to do. That's where I'm at.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see you and Zach and the rest of the folks here in a year from now talking about this amazing program that you have in place. So Will, I know you've been the person behind the scenes putting this all together, but I wanted to come to you for just a quick second, just to get your thoughts on how did this whole session make you feel?
It's always what drives me, you know, hearing the guys talk about their experiences, the way dogs impact them. You know, I think it all comes back to the dogs and the way dogs help us connect to this thing inside of us. You know, I've had experiences in my life that shut me down and I didn't feel things emotionally. And I think that's why I relate to a lot of the guys when these dogs bring it out of them. And there's so many like emotions pouring out, and just seeing all the goodness in them drives me to keep it going, drives me to expand, drives me to, you know, continue pushing myself to be better every day. So I can help more Oscars, more Rigos, more Dedantes, who have all of this potential that's just sitting locked up in a prison.
Well, we are so grateful for you, Will. Mr. Vo, I'm going to come over to you because there is something really, really, really important that has to happen right now. And let me see if I can get you to unmute if you're still there with us. Mr. Vo, you there? See if he's fumbling with his phone. Well, if not, I'm going to come over to Mr. Farmer. Mr. Farmer, you there with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, brother. So at the end of this call, you got over 100 people that are in the business of helping cats and dogs and families that do this shit every day, that are tired, they're exhausted. Your job is to inspire us and send us into the rest of our week. So over to you.
I said, how do I put it in these words? Put yourself in the next person's shoes. So if I can try to take my head off and put it on somebody else's head. So I went to prison 2 months after turning 14. I was tried as an adult and they gave me 17 years and 2 strikes. They told me if I didn't take a plea bargain, I was only mandatory to get 40 to life. 17 years later, I was almost convicted of a crime that I didn't do at the end of my sentence. And I had John Flores from I Pity the Bull come to a court date down there in LA County. The judge was like, well, this is going on, but you still have another case here. I sat in the shoe during COVID, almost died in prison. But at the end of the day, I said, what's going to happen if I give up? What's going to happen? Who am I going to disappoint outside of myself? I had all these dudes that said, man, you know, we got your back. You know, when I was in foster care, nobody cared about me. I was a check. I was a $4,000 a month kid that they were pumping with psychotropic medications that I didn't know what the hell was going on. When I went to the youth authority, not a single visit. The first visit that I got in prison was from John Flores, Zach Scold, Lisa Porter, Leah Marquez, Kim, and all these people that came in. That was the first time I ever had a visitation in prison. And so as I sat in the shoe and I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. I might get 50 to life, but I've done all this positive stuff. When they took the program outside of the level 4 prison, not because of anything that we did, because of inner politics of people not understanding like, oh, all you have to do is give a guy a dog and he has instant responsibility. And he may not want to talk to a person who has ill intentions because there's money behind it, but this dog who just actually just wants to be loved and cared for, but also to bring about some type of discipline to get he or she where she needs to be is all that it takes. These are the natural medicines of life. Some things you don't need some big bulletin to go about. Give them the natural medicines of life. So I sat there and I said, man, what am I going to do? So I put myself in a person like Oscar shoes, which is he's my coworker here. I put myself in a person like Brian James shoes. I had an actual date to get out of prison, but I put myself in my brother's shoes to go to the parole board. So I did everything that these men were doing, and I went to that parole board and they denied me. And I felt what all these men have felt who did good for so long, but their circumstances held them back. I said, I feel their pain. Just like all those dogs in the kennels, on a shoe yard, you're put in a kennel. They put a chain on you, they walk you, they put you on a yard, and they say, here, have fun in this little box for however long we keep you out here, and then we bring you and we put you back in a cage. So I know what it's like to be in the kennel, like Mr. Rodriguez was saying. We know what it's like to be in those chains. It was never a hope for us. You know, they say we were monsters, you know what I'm saying? So when Zach came, I told Zach straight off the bat, I want the ones that nobody else wants. Give me the worst of the worst and watch what's going to happen. I want that pit bull that, oh, this dog is going to do this. Give me the worst of the worst because I'm considered the worst of the worst and we're going to see what's going to happen. You know, and nothing but amazing stuff happened. Here at LA Canines, I've had nothing but love here, like complete love. Dave and Colleen, just to watch how she works just to see the way, like, you have to experience this superwoman work in order to really just be like, oh, like Lisa Porter. When you see Lisa Porter enters a prison yard with, you know, you have dudes convicted of murder. You have the dudes who just say, I don't care about life. And the respect that she's given, because the energy that she's giving off, it's not a dominant energy. It's an energy of, hey, I'm here. I have my boundaries of what I'm doing. These are my intentions. You feel what I feel. When Zach entered the prison yard, you know what Zach did that really honed in on the fellas? He didn't come in like everybody else does and just walk around like, you know, like people viewing animals in a zoo, looking at doors. He came in and sat down with us and shook everyone's hand. So he brought himself to our level.
Respect. Mr. Farmer, I'm going to wrap it in 15. So I know some folks got to go to a meeting at the middle of the hour. So last 15 seconds, what's that last word of inspiration you got for the rest of these folks?
If you're tired, you're doing what you're supposed to do. Because that's going to make you stay hungry. Kobe Bryant said it before. He said those late nights when you're working hard, when you shedding all those blood, sweat, and tears and you're tired, this is the dream. If nobody believes in your dream, then they don't believe in you. It only takes a few people to believe in your dream to actually motivate you. And I'm motivated. When I'm sitting here seeing this, I'm motivated. When I'm down and I'm in the dog park and Oscar comes and he comes into work and my man is, let's go. It's the motivation of it. Just to have somebody that's been there and experienced what I've been through, be like, look, bro, let me give you a hug. That's all it needs sometimes is a hug.
That's it.
That's
give
it
a guy
right
a dog, give a man a hug. And if you're tired, you're doing what the fuck you're supposed to do. All right, Mr. Farmer. All right, everybody else. Thank you all for hanging out for an extra 30 minutes. God bless. What a pleasure. Happy Monday.